Well, gang, welcome to Advanced Troubleshooting. So my name's Jamie Norris, and I am the manager of Onboarding and Growth here at RingLogix. If you've never met me before, I find that hard to believe. If you haven't, I probably have a problem if you haven't. But I have two special guests that you might not have met, at least in real life as it gets. I do have our support manager here, Alejandro. Wave and say hi, Alejandro.
Hello, guys. Nice meeting
And
you.
then I have Eric Bruce, who is our technician extraordinaire. That's his official name over here at RingLogix. If you haven't met him, you've probably talked to him or he's dealt with one of your tickets in the past. And Eric, I know you don't have a camera, but say hello to everybody.
Hey, 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 everyone.
And we do have Miss Gabriella from marketing here. She's babysitting us a little bit, so she'll keep us all in line. But today we're going to go over advanced troubleshooting. We did this topic back in November, and we've been getting asked about it. We've kind of, we've kind of changed it up a little bit. And last time it was our first time doing it, so we went a little long. We're going to try to leave some more time for you guys to ask us questions. Like I said, you're on mic, so just be good, be nice. We'll try not to hit specific situations in this call, just for the sake of the entire group. If you have something that you think is overwhelmingly good for the group, we can talk about it, but we won't be talking about like very specific tickets. We're going to try to stay away from that today. So let's see, I got some people in the chat here. Oh, it's Eric putting stuff for the call later.
Yeah, I'm
So
misspelling stuff.
yay, we like misspelling. All right, gang. So we'll hop right in here though. Advanced troubleshooting. So, what brought this up back in November and why we're bringing it back today is the why. We're going to talk about that in a minute. This is our agenda. We are going to hit on devices today. We're going to talk about network. We're going to go over components of a SIP log in Tech 101, which is actually tomorrow. I'll plug it for tomorrow. So if you have any brand new people, Tech 101 happens every single month. Same content. It's intended for a refresher. If you have new employees that are new to RingLogix that you want to join, you know, feel free, but it is tomorrow. We go over how to find a SIP log in 101. We're going to talk about the different components and what they mean today. We're going to give you some resources, and then, like I said, we're going to do little Q&As between each topic, and then we're also going to have one at the end. So if you have questions, we love sharing on this particular type of call. So why do we do this, right? And very similarly to Tech 101, at the end of the day, you, us, your customer, we're all trying to get to resolution quickly. So we're hoping that these topics help you do that. We know that you, as our partner, you're servicing your customer. We're kind of the middleman, right? Your customer reports something to you, you're trying to figure it out, you need our help. There's lots of steps. So hopefully some of this information can help you. Help yourself even more. I hear from partners all the time, like, I wish I could see some of these things, or I wish I knew more about X or Y, so that like you didn't have to, come to us to do it. So hopefully some of these topics will help you do that. We always want you to know why we're asking for information. I know sometimes it seems cumbersome or bothersome, but we want you to know really what we use the data that you're giving us to do. So part of this call, we're going to show you why we ask for the things that we ask for. And then we just want you to know how we troubleshoot together, how we can make it better. If you have suggestions, we're always open to that as well. We're constantly trying to improve, the whole support experience. Okay. Is that you, Eric, again, or do I have somebody else? Oh, Gabriella hooked us up with the link. So if you have new people and and I just opened the whole box on my screen. If you have new people and you want to sign up for Tech 101, Gabriella's got the link in the chat. Thanks, Gabriella. So this first slide, I'll tell you the first time I saw this on a call, and this is the reason I added in a call, it kind of blew my mind a little bit. Um, when I pick up the phone and I make an outbound call, it connects. And I don't think of all the things that happen in between. And all of these things are a component to troubleshooting. So this is actually the steps that an inbound call basically traverses when it's made. So you pick up the phone and you dial a number, right? So that originating call starts with a carrier. And our inbound carrier mostly is going to be what? Bandwidth and Telequint, right, Alejandro? Maybe sometimes, who's the other one we just picked up?
My gosh, tele.
I know. I don't know. Yeah, I'm drawing a blank. But originating call starts with the carrier, right? Then it hits the edge of our network, right? So our SBC, our session border controller, right? And then it's authenticated through the billing engine, right? So, does the customer have funds? Do you have funds to make to receive this call? Then from the SBC, it's going to hit that customer PBX. So that's where it comes into play, like auto attendance, time frames, and queues. Then it's going to hit the customer equipment, and somewhere between the PBX and the customer equipment is the customer's LAN, right? So that's their network. Then the call connects and billing begins. So when we get tickets inbound about inbound calls, there are so many points that we have to troubleshoot. And when we ask you for specific data, it's so that we're not just guessing where the weirdness happened. We're getting specific data that's pointing us to where the weirdness happened. Does that make sense, Alejandro? Eric, you have anything you want to add on an
That
inbound
is
call?
that is correct. Yeah, one of the first things that we'll look at is, for example, the billing engine. So we know that it's not even introduced to the customer's LAN as of that point. Did the billing engine allow or give authentication and allow it to pass? So we can find out if it's a billing issue or if there is an actual calling issue happening.
Exactly. Adding a little bit to that, sometimes when we have forwarded calls, if we have a call that it's being forwarded before, if it's a double forward, then most of the times some elements get removed, like the P charge and other things, and we can see it there as well. And
Correct.
that's something that the billing engine actually prevents from going out or in, and we can actually act on it. So that those are two good things to get from there.
Yeah, and I like to show this because I was pretty naive. I like pick up my phone and I just know that it works, right? Call connects, and you don't think about all these things that happen in the background. And don't forget, these things are happening in like milliseconds, right? So, when you pick up the phone and dial a number, all of this has happened typically before it starts ringing. So just some food for thought. And then I wanted to show you the outbound experience, right? So it's a little bit in reverse. So customer calls out, right? It's their LAN, right? So they have to have network. So then there's SIP authentication, okay? And it's going to be based on their username and password. Then it's going to authenticate again. Once again, is there credit available? Is there plans available? SBC to outbound carrier. Now, this is like the controllable. I know a lot of people think we can control the inbound call. We can't, right? That's with the carrier of record where the phone number came from. Now, outbound calls, we can control. We have, just like you guys as managed service providers have a tech stack, we have a carrier stack. So it starts at a high rating, and then depending on the area, it goes, down. But we have 10 to 20 carriers in that stack that are available to complete routes. So if you live or service a rural area and you've ever put in a ticket and we've put in what we kind of call a route block, That's what that's about. Like the carrier that it went to first wasn't completing the call the way that we would think that they would be doing it properly. So we block that carrier and they no longer are part of that stack and it goes to the next one. And then usually that's a better experience for you. So for those of you who are in those rural areas, you know, sometimes we have to do that because like I said, we use the stack. Then it's hitting the customer equipment. Then the call connects and billing begins. And I know I picked up my phone like I was making an outbound call on the inbound side. I apologize about that. Pretend that I was answering the phone. But this is how an outbound call traverses. So when we're asking you questions when you submit a ticket, is it inbound or is it outbound? Right? And sometimes I know we get flustered when we're dealing with, you know, customers and you're like, it's all calls, or, you know, we've heard that before. It's for, if you could narrow it down to inbound and outbound, there's two very distinct actions that we take when it's inbound or outbound. Right, guys? Can you confirm or deny that?
100%. As well as carriers. Inbound is very specific, and outbound is, there's a bit of randomness. They can choose from multiple carriers, but one really has nothing to do with the other. So it's important to cut that in half. Is it an inbound issue, or is it strictly an outbound issue? Because that's the springboard right there. You generally
Exactly.
never have both in and outbound issues together.
Cool, cool. And you know, and I don't like to bring up bad things that have happened, right? But I will for right now because it was a bad thing that happened, but it was a good thing. So I don't know if it's probably I was gonna say a few weeks ago, but I think it's been a few months now. I don't know if you guys remember bandwidth had a little issue. I want to say it was 2 months ago
Yeah,
or you know,
thereabouts.
yeah. And
Yeah, a month
I
ago.
will say our partner community put in some kick-ass tickets, right? We were able to, like, as the tickets were coming in, we were seeing that they were all inbound calls. And I feel like we were able to mitigate, well, we didn't mitigate it, bandwidth did, but because the tickets were better and you guys were identifying was it inbound or outbound, we were able very quickly to get with bandwidth and figure out that they were having issues on that. So I will say, like, our partner community did a great job. I mean, we just still had a few tickets that were like it was all calls, but the majority of them that came in were all inbound. We were able to find out right away what the carrier was and get that settled. Like, we don't typically like to um kind of like say, oh, all these tickets are similar. We like to look at them and as individual situations, but we were able to quickly identify a pattern, right, Alejandro? Like, wouldn't you agree that last one, like it got
That one was pretty weird because it seemed like something was off within our LAN, and then we were like, this is a little weird." And then we started investigating, and then all of a sudden it was just, a generalized, let's say, problem with the carrier. So yeah, sometimes things look to you on your side, like if there's something wrong with us, but then on our side, kind of looks like that. But once we start investigating and taking a look at the information, then we can confirm that the pattern repeats over and over again, and then we know that things are not within our side, or the things might be from outside, and that's how we determine that we actually had a problem with our carriers. Yeah,
yeah.
mostly with bandwidth. Yeah,
Right. And don't get me wrong, guys.
yeah,
I mean, I know that we manage the carrier experience for you. So like as far as you know, perception, everything's our fault. Like I 1,000% own that and get that. But there are certain things that are a little bit out of our control because we're not a carrier. We use the support of carriers. So but yeah, a bad situation, but it got mitigated pretty quickly. And I will say, I thought the tickets that came in were a lot more detailed and everybody was answering the questions. So we were able to get that resolved quicker. So good job. Good job there. Before we move on to the next topic, I do want to open it up. If anybody has any questions, if this is the first time you're seeing this, do you have any questions on how a call traverses, either inbound or outbound? I just want to kind of open it up to you all. And once again, you should be all unmiked. I'll make sure any uh, late joiners are unmiked. No?
I have a
Silent.
question.
Yeah, sure, Marco.
Mhm.
Is it the inbound or outbound issue if a phone call drops after being forwarded? Like you receive a call, you forward it to another person in your company, and then the call drops.
And when you say forward, are you transferring it extension to extension, or are you forwarding the call to like a cell phone?
Extension to extension.
Well, unless there is a loop, the call should not drop. But if there is a loop somewhere that the answering rules from one user is, forwarding the call to then a call queue or to themselves, then the call will be stuck in a loop, right? If, the agent has the call forwarding to himself, if something happens or if they're not answering, then, the initial call will just calm and then it'll just be in that loop calling the agent again until someone picks up. But if they have it to set to forward when unanswered or unavailable, then things will be in a loop. But it depends on the scenario. Most of the times that's when the calls kind of like drop because the system decides that the call has been on a loop for X amount of time, and then it decides to just finish the session. But if the session is not being terminated, then we need to know why. If you have a sample, just submit a ticket. We'll take a look. But if you want to take a look right now, we can also do that with Eric.
Is that an overwhelming problem that you have, Marco, where somebody answers a call in your whether it's you or your customer and they transfer it to another extension and the call drops? Or was that just like a curious question?
Yeah, and I guess more importantly, are we saying a call comes into extension 101 who is set to forward to extension 200? Is that specifically the call flow?
Or is it a transfer? Like you're hitting a button to transfer to another user?
It most of the time it is a transfer, yes.
So
And
someone answers call, takes call, says, "Hey, I want to talk to Alejandro." Like, are we talking like a receptionist scenario? Then they
yeah,
transfer it to whoever was asked for?
yep.
Okay.
Though
And go ahead.
this issue is really weird because it seems to come and go in waves.
Hmm. And what type
Oh,
of
okay.
devices are these?
Yeah.
Panasonic IP phones.
Ooh,
No, they're
okay.
Polycom phones, sorry.
Polycon, yeah.
Oh, they're Polycom.
Oh,
And do you have
that's
a
it.
trace of that by chance?
Yeah, I already submitted the ticket. I just wanted to know if this is more an internal or external issue.
No, that sounds most definitely like an internal issue. But
Mhm.
Yeah.
again, in fairness, we have to see the trace. You have an
Yeah.
incoming call, and
And
now it's between device to device. Yes, it does egress your LAN at some point, but it's basically those two devices trying to communicate.
Okay,
mhm. And it could be a firmware issue as well.
Of
If
course.
both devices are not up to date, then you're there exposed to any type of issues. If you take a look at the release notes for pretty much every let's say vendor that releases a firmware, they will tell you what have they fixed, and most of the times that includes calling problems. So it is important to have them up to date.
got it.
And I just looked at Marco's ticket, and this is a really good topic to talk about on advanced troubleshooting. So, the tech that received this ticket can't troubleshoot on the sample because it's too old. Guys, can you tell everyone that's on this call why having a sample within the time frame that you guys at like 24 hours, like what can you see on that that you can't see on an older one?
Well,
Want to take it here? Yeah, go for it.
yeah, the actual trace will actually die, meaning that we can't retrieve it generally after the very latest 72 hours. So if you submit something before that, it pretty much becomes useless to us, nor can we pull the PCAP at that point. So it's super important to have it within bare minimum the 2 to 3 day mark at most, so that that sample can be retrieved. We can pull PCAPs, we can pull audio, so on and so forth. If it's older, then unfortunately that just wipes the problem off the table. We cannot see it or dig into it like we want to.
Which we know
Correct.
is a
And that is
catch-22 because your customer probably didn't report it to you until days after it happened. And then you're trying to report it to us when you get a minute, which could be more days after it happened. So we know that
Exactly.
really sucks for
the exactly the same
everyone
thing.
involved on a intermittent issue, especially, right? Where it's coming and going because customers reporting it late, things like that. And yeah, that's the struggle, guys. That struggle is real.
The struggle is yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, guys. So that's the whole thing. We understand, of course, we understand you that this is not something that you can grab immediately. But if you can let your customers know that the fresher, the better, that's even better because for us, it is very crucial once we get a very recent trace. The more recent, the better because we can obtain every single thing from there for sure.
Correct.
Yeah, and to answer your original question, Marco, too, like something like that, no, is not, that's more internal extension to extension dialing. So that's not really inbound or outbound in the sense that you're thinking of. And it's not something that I see that happens often. So the guys are right on the money with the firmware and things like that. But that trace is going to be the data that they need to like figure out what's going on with that.
Crucial, correct. Yeah. And then we're gonna ask more questions, right? Is it on cold transfers? Is it on warm transfers? Were you guys on hold before? And a lot of things. So you'll be ready. We're gonna ask a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Got it.
That
Thanks.
You're
Yeah,
welcome. That was a good question, though, for sure.
Mhm.
Anybody else?
yeah.
No? All right. We'll move on. If you think of something else, just interrupt. We're good to go. That's what this is all about. It's for you. So interrupt, ask questions. So device troubleshooting. So we're going to talk a little bit about this. Now in 101, I'm not gonna like hover on the slides as much. This is more just as an after. We're going to send this presentation to you. And actually we just updated to NetSapiens v44.4. So this particular slide isn't going to have all the devices, but yours truly did update your knowledge base article for auto provisioning supported devices. So that is up to date with the new devices that were introduced with v44.4.6. Sorry, that's a lot. So, but this was just to give you like a little picture of it. Auto provisioning, right? Alejandro and Eric, I know we do this in 101, but I also think it's important in advance too, to just hit the highlights on why auto provisioning is so important. So do you guys want to go through this or do you kind of want me to? It's up to either one of you.
Mhm.
Sure, I'm
I'll
happy
explain a
to.
little bit.
Yeah, go ahead, AJ.
Yeah, and actually, I was gonna bring up the problem that we were discussing yesterday, and it's because of the SRVs actually. So look, guys, we have a set of SRVs, and the SRVs are kind of like redundant DNSs, right? We have one record, and that one record will be good for you, so you can auto provision your devices. What does this mean? It means that if you are registered with SRV and auto provisioning, no matter what server you are registered on, if one of those servers fails for any reason at all, or two servers fail, you will still have, the phone will jump from server to server until it has some service and you are able to call. So no matter what happens, we would have to be bluntly dead, all of our cores down in order for us to prevent you from getting service. So this is the importance of the SRV and the auto provisioning. If you do the auto provisioning, you will have every single features, BLF, Snap Builder, your contacts, anything that you can imagine. Sorry, you will have it in the phone if you're auto provisioned. But if you are manually provisioned, then more downside things come into play rather than auto provision. And with SRV, of course. Eric, you had an issue. Maybe you want to talk about it today.
Okay, that was well, mine was more specific to DNS.
Yeah, correct.
So one of the things that some resellers will do, or some of their clients will do, is they use a local DNS, i.e., their router, to do all of the DNS queries. And that's fine. But if they're having an issue with that DNS or with their router, they break it, the phones act peculiar, or they don't register anymore, or they completely go offline. Best use case scenario is to use public DNS, like Google, like Cloudflare. So 8.8.8.8, 1.1.1.1, those are much less likely to ever go down, if that makes sense.
Not to me, but I'm sure it does to most people. That's why I have you guys here and I'm not doing stuff like that. Does anybody not understand that would like it explained a little bit better? Because this is a little more advanced of a class. So if you don't understand what the guys are saying, speak up and they can get into it a little bit more. Or is everybody okay with that? If we get like some thumbs ups or something. But, if you're not understanding, there's no stupid question on this call. Well, there might be. Just kidding. No, I'm just kidding. But, nothing. We understand if you're not understanding some of the technical jargon. So.
Not at all. Yeah, go for it. Absolutely.
Yeah, be our guest.
Did I get something in the chat here? Oh, nope,
Oh,
Steve's
no,
all good.
all good.
All right, good. My thumbs up. Thanks, Steve. Now we all know device provisioning, auto provisioning is great. It's the best way to go. What's the circumstance where we'd have to manually provision, Alejandro? And then, like, what can we do if we have to do that to make sure that we still follow SRV? Like, how, I know that there's times where sometimes you just can't get a phone to auto provision, and like support would walk a partner through manual provisioning. I know there's ATAs that we have, but what do we have to do to make sure that they still follow SRV even if manually provisioned? Or Eric?
So we have a few, yeah. Yeah, so we have a few records that you can introduce into it. Most of the times we do domain.fqdn, so you can manually register it. Most of the times that'll be just one-off devices. Either it'll be with EOL devices that are reaching or they're very close to end of life, or they are actually end of life because the provider doesn't releases any firmware upgrades. But for some devices, they have released recently some firmware upgrades that will allow you to input now the outbound proxy, which in the outbound proxy, it'll go our SRV. So if we put the SRV right there, any of the records that we have available, everything will be good, and it'll be just like, an auto provision type of thing. But if it doesn't work, then, we'll do everything we can to register the device. Of course, we will let you know what things will be in it, what other things won't be in it. But for most of the things, the record will be a good thing to have. Any other thing you want to add, Eric?
No, I'm actually posting the
Oh yeah,
SRV
the records
here just for ideas. So when you manually provision, these are the links that you're putting in.
Exactly. It'll be domain dot, and then this well, most of the times it's the FQDN, but in this case it'll be just the SRV record. So it'll be domain dot, SRV record, and that'll get you through it.
Because we know it happens, right? We know that it's just part of life that every once in a while you're going to need to manually provision a phone. I mean, we're consistently running reports, our engineering team, They typically provide them to our success team. So if you ever get a love note from us saying, hey, you have 86 devices that are on, manually provisioned. Let's help you get those going, right? Either auto provisioned or we get, the SRV record added, because basically what we want to avoid, especially because there's times, and I know you guys haven't noticed it, and I love that nobody notices it because that means everything's working like it should. But there's times during the day where we might have to do quick maintenance on Miami. We take it down. We move everybody to Dallas. It load balances with San Jose, and engineering is just tickled when we get 0 tickets when that happens. But the times that we do get tickets is because manually provisioned devices. I'll say it's less and less over the years. We did a sweep a couple years ago, and there was quite a few of them on there. But I think everybody's getting hip to it. But if you ever have any questions about that, or if you have questions now's the time to ask. You have the experts in front of you, not me. I'm talking about Eric and Alejandro. But does anybody have any questions about why auto provisioning is the way to go, or a situation, or anything that you want to talk about? No?
I just have a question.
Sure,
So,
Ken.
hi, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Okay. That I was just hiding in the corner.
That's okay. You're allowed. It's
But I
well, it's
thought
sunny
I
out.
I thought
You
I
should be
had
hiding. You should be hiding on your boat. It's like 70 in Ohio. That's at least
Yeah.
that's boating weather now, right?
that water's really cold though.
I figured. I figured.
So as long as I don't put it in the water, I could do that. Okay. So this so with Yealink, I believe you guys have a connection to their management portal. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
So do you have that with GrandStream, or do you intend to?
Yeah.
Uh,
Right. Well, I mean, so Ken, are you talking about RPS, the redirect and provisioning server with
Yeah.
Yealink, or are you talking about the actual Yealink management portal? Because they're two different things.
Yeah, no, exactly. The provisioning server, right.
Okay. Yeah. RPS is built into the platform. Alejandro, and Eric, correct me if I'm wrong. And Eric, I think you were about to say something. Like, we do have GrandStream auto provisioning built into the platform, right? The GDS.
We do have GDMS, but it's a little tricky because yeah, it has to be requested because most of the times it's a paid subscription, but we try to do it like for every single device that we have. So if by any chance that one is not there, we will try to add it. But with GrandStream is a little trickier because you will have to let us know. It's not as automatic as the ZTP or RPS.
Well, I've been doing them manually, because then if we want to reboot it, I can go and reboot it. Or or once in a while, like there's some other goofy override,
Yeah.
But isn't that GDS though, or whatever,
GDMS,
Alejandro?
right.
That's
GDMS.
more like using the Yealink management portal. Like, just having RPS built in the platform, you can't remotely reboot a Yealink device. But if you put them in the Yealink management portal, you can do that. But what you're then doing is like kind of removing yourself from RPS, and in your Yealink management portal, you have to put like our provisioning server address for RingLogix so that it like
So
auto provisions. But I don't know I'm more familiar with Yealink than I am with GrandStream.
Yeah.
But I'm
yeah,
thinking my common sense mentality is telling me it's very similar.
yeah, and I catch your drift actually, Jamie and Kendall. So Kendall, if you're trying to do something and if for some reason you reboot the device and some things are lost, is that the case, Kendall?
Well, actually, what I've done is, for instance, I can factory reset them, and I
Yeah.
found that my
Remotely, right,
GrandStream
Ken?
phones every once in a while, like I just had out at Atlantis, they had a fax machine that wasn't working. They had an ATA. I just factory reset it,
Yeah.
and it seems like it's working now. So So,
Nice.
and then you can't do that. So I just was wondering though, if because I hadn't heard that so yeah, you should be able to do it without setting them up in GDMS.
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
should be
no,
do.
not
I
factory
mean,
reset though, right, Alejandro? Like
Exactly. That's right. That's why I usually set them up
yeah.
in GDMS.
yeah.
Mhm. No, like from here, no, you can only reboot it. If you want to factory reset it, yeah, it'll have to be added to GDMS for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thanks.
There's because there's a misconception between the actual provisioning servers and the management portals, right? A lot of times. But yeah, the redirect and provisioning, the ZTP, like that's built in like through NetSapiens. But once you land in like the portal that like your Yealink vendor, your GrandStream vendor, your Polycom vendor has to give you like actual access to, that's a little different.
Right.
Yeah,
But do you guys
yeah.
also have Polycom?
Well,
Do you do
there's
that?
zero
Z-
touch provisioning,
Yeah.
ZTP
yeah,
built in, right?
Okay.
I don't know if actually, I'm pretty positive Polycom does have a management portal too that you have to like get access to.
that's right. Yeah.
But if nobody has put the phone in the Yealink platform, you should be able to do a Polycom as well. Just put the serial number, just put the MAC address in the um
And yeah,
in the
when you
in the
when you
NetSapiens
when
Yeah,
you
ZTP
add
would kick in then. Yes.
correct. Yeah, when you add the device to the portal, that's when it is shipped to the platform and it puts that information in that server.
Yeah, I
Correct.
didn't. Okay, I didn't know for sure. I didn't realize it. I haven't used a Polycom, in years. Okay, thanks a lot.
Yeah, no, that's a great question.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Yeah, because there is a misconception between the two of them sometimes for sure. So good, good, good. Anybody else before we move on to our next topic?
Well, there is a question here, Jamie, in the
Oh,
chat.
is there? We could just get
Yeah,
one?
from Andrew.
Yeah, firmware. Yeah, go ahead, answer that. That's a great one. Firmware updates, is there something to push them through NetSapiens? Yeah, that's a great question. Go ahead, you guys can tackle that one.
Is
Well,
the question, can we push a particular
Yeah,
firmware?
yeah,
Uh,
or Andrew, why don't you clarify? Are you asking like,
Well, when
is
we
there
talked about
automatically update them?
making sure they were all in the same firmware, if there's a way to, push a firmware version to all the phones, say like that the customer that Marco was talking about has all VVX 411s, they're all the same. Is there a way to say, hey, we want all these on this version of firmware and push it through?
yes and no. So can we push a firmware? Absolutely, we can. Do we do it in practice? Very rarely. Reason being is because if we, for example, we update these Polycoms to a specific firmware you're requesting, and there's issues, and you cannot return to a prior firmware, then you hold our feet at the stake. So normally we only do that when there is an issue that we are correcting that we've already verified.
All right, yeah, because I'm just wondering because that customer just happens to have like 110 phones, so it's quite a
Oh
few.
my goodness.
but we can do the overrides, right, Eric? I guess that it'll be easier like that.
Yes, you can do an override. You could place it in the phone or place it in a template and have them reboot their phone.
Okay.
Yeah. I guess that'll be a lot easier if you want to do like a mass deployment, let's say. Create a template with the override in it, and then just apply it to all of the 411s in that domain. And then, once you reboot it, then the actual phone will look for the firmware.
Will
Correct.
he
And
need to do them like 8 at a time though?
a good question.
Yeah, so and guys, this comes up and this since this is advanced, we put some safety measures in place so that people couldn't like pirate and just activate a bunch of phones. So if you're ever going to do a big push like that, you'll want to put in a ticket and get with support, because we can unblock the IP for a small time frame where you could get that done. Because if you're and you could push it, but as you factory reset them, you're going to want to do them like 8 at a time, like factory reboot 8, let them come up. Factory reboot 8 more, let them come up. I mean, engineering picked that number statistically because most of the time you're not like boom, like flashing all your devices all at the same time. And but you might run into IP blocks if you were to be able to reboot 110 devices all at the same time.
Yeah,
right?
that looks nefarious to the server.
Right.
Yeah, we've seen some tricky hackers trying to do some special things just like that, and then we learned from that and we just put the block in place. So yeah.
Cool. No, that's a great question though. So Andrew, if you're thinking of doing something like that, definitely get with support first. They could definitely give you more direction.
Of course.
Cool. Sorry, I'm answering a question. Multitasking here. All right. Anybody else before we move on? All right. Good stuff. This is just some troubleshooting tips. We've given this to you in previous, but I threw it in there. We've linked you to some articles. I won't beat a dead horse on it, but we'll move on. But it will be in your follow-up packet. So the age-old battle of network versus VoIP, right? Alejandro laughs at me because I like to compare this to Batman and Superman, right? They're both good guys, but sometimes they battle each other. And I feel like that in our situation, sometimes it looks like a blame game, even though these are both components that are good that you need to service your customer. So what we wanted to kind of do, why we ask you to check your network, we're not like trying to push the blame onto someone or something else. It's just that a lot of times the perception is my phone is broken because that's the physical thing that you hold in your hand. When really the network is affecting the ability of the VoIP to operate as expected. We want to get a little deeper. We give you reasons in 101, like why you check this. What we want to show you here are like when you give us a SIP log, and we tell you it's network. Once again, we're not pawning it off on the network guy. We've looked at data that has shown us that the network is the problem, right? Like Morgan Wallen, right? We're not the problem. Network is the problem. But these are some examples of where we identified that the network was the issue or the SIP was the issue. So Alejandro or Eric, you want to kind of describe like this particular sample? If you guys need me to zoom in too to make it bigger, I will. But do you guys want to kind of describe this example that we have?
You want to go for
Yeah,
it,
yeah.
Alejandro?
Of course, yeah. Thank you, Eric. Yeah, guys. So look, most of the times, in the industry, we like to be practical, right? Either things are working or they are not working. That's it. But that's good for us. But then when we get into the actual problem, just to investigate, dig deeper, and go deeper, just to see what's going on, we find out that not every time is a network problem. Just like in this example right here, right? We grab a call trace. This is how a call trace looks. I am pretty sure that you guys are familiar with it. If you're not, let us know. We will show you. But now that we have the call trace in front, this was a very good example from a call from the PSTN, from the network outside the network. A cell phone was trying to call to a company, and that company was ringing a certain set of extensions, right? Now, the problem was that this was supposed to ring 3 extensions and it only showed 1 here. It's highlighted in the red box right there. So if you see on the right, what we look for are those type of issues right there we try to look what extensions was trying to ring before the invites were sent. And then we see if all of the actual invites were successfully sent. And then the invites are sent, of course, but the system has a double verification first. It has to verify that the extension exists and that the extension is active. And after that, then the invite is sent. But as you can see here, only one invite was sent, and it was sent over to the 101 extension. So the whole problem here, as you can see it highlighted in red on your right, is that the actual invite failed to be sent. So why did it fail? Then that's something that we need to investigate with our vendor. We submit the ticket, and if we suspect there's a bug, then it's a bug, and we try to fix it and prevent it for you guys. But these are the type of things that we actually dig deeper for. Things that where the system failed and why it failed and how to prevent it so it doesn't happen to you or any of our clients for that matter. So that's what we are actually looking for a SIP example, right? It might look like a network example because not all of your phones rang, and you're wondering why, right? And that's where you're submitting the ticket. It's like, hey, it was supposed to ring 5 phones, and it only rang 3 or 2 or 1. Why? Why is that happening, and how we can prevent it? And this is what we look for most of the times.
And here is our network one. So let me move us out of the way a little bit there. There you go. So this is an example that we checked where we could tell the network was wonky or failing. So can you describe what you're seeing here?
Yeah, so if you guys take a look, this was a very good sample from a local extension, a web phone, and specifically dialing a cell phone number for the PSTN. The call completed successfully. However, the actual main complaint was that the call was all disastrous, right? It had some crackling noises and all that. So most of the times, like we said, in a practical sense, you say, well, there is something wrong with these guys. What is going on? You submit the ticket. But when we are actually checking at the end of the conversation after the buys, we can see a few switch logics. That's how we call them, the little cogs. So if you go to the cogs and then you look at the details on it, you can actually see what was the kilobits per second exchange between the device and our core and then the client's network, right? And at the end, you can see there that it is very low on the right. If you see at the end the kbps on the right, you will see that those are very low. And most of the times what we're looking for a decent or normal call is between 60 and 80 or more, right? But if it has less than 60, like in this case, if it has 60, 40, then you know that the call has been degraded either by packet loss or something similar on the network. And this is a very good network example, and this is what we go to. And when we tell you, hey, can you actually check on your network for CPLG or, double NAT, or can you reboot your network? We're not just, making things up, right? We go
We're
here.
trying to make your life hard because we know it sucks bad to reboot a network, right? Like nobody's like pretending that doesn't suck, right? Like high level of suckage. But sometimes that's what needs to be done. And we all know too, like I mean, how often I'm guilty of it. I don't even like to reboot my phone, my cell phone, you know what I mean? So, sometimes those are the necessary evils, but we're definitely not under the assumption that it doesn't suck, right? But good
And,
stuff.
and furthermore, a lot of times, of course, we don't put images into some tickets to indicate a specific problem. So, sometimes you may think to yourself, well, why is he asking me to do this? Is this a Hail Mary? It's usually always for a specific reason that we've found in the trace.
Yeah, the data.
Exactly.
Yeah, data doesn't
Mhm.
lie. People
And look,
might, but
if you
data
guys,
doesn't.
yeah, and if and if you guys feel uncomfortable with what we're asking, you are very welcome to say, "Hey, what are you fundamenting this on? I mean, I want you to show me where you're seeing this and why you want me to reboot my network." I mean, you have all the right, and we will prove it to you for sure.
Of course.
Good. Any questions there? I know we're running out of time again, but I think we got some really good questions in today. The next couple screenshots, we do in 101. Once again, they're just here as a leave behind, but how to find the SIP log, where it's at, what it's all about. But what I'd really like to do for the last 10 minutes of this call is Eric is going to grab the screen from me. He's got some live traces and he's going to show you some components on the SIP log. Now, mind you, I do not expect any of you to be able to leave this call and be an expert SIP log reader. We are just wanting to give you ammunition to help you get better, where maybe you could look at it and be like, oh, that's what this is. So we will still always do that for you. This is more for the curious people that kind of want to know more. So Eric, I am going to stop sharing and let you grab this, and you were going to maybe pull some live logs from our RingLogix account and just kind of go like over the headers, like how you can tell it's an inbound call. Excuse me, how you can tell it's an outbound call. Maybe what are some signs of good and bad, like Wayne always does his Wayne voice and he says 200 good, 400 bad, So if you want to grab it, and we'll use like the last 8 minutes and kind of go over components of a SIP log before we wrap up.
Yeah, sure, of course. Can you guys see my screen or
Not yet. No.
not yet? Share.
Looks like the magic's happening here. There it is.
Here we go.
Okay, so immediately when you pull a trace, if you look to the far left, this indicates the actual direction the call is going. So it's coming from the SBC and it's inbound. So this is an inbound call. And if you notice, it's ringing, look, Jamie, it's ringing you. So this is indicating that it's ringing two of her devices, indicating it's a SIM ring. So it's an inbound call. And in there, you'll see the two, that number, that's the number being dialed, and it's being dialed from this number. So it's indicating it's ringing them both. Now, the invites are sent to both devices. Here's the first one. There's the
Hey, Eric,
second
why
one.
do I have two cores? Why are my devices living in separate cores?
Because they are registered independently to two different cores.
And you can see here two type of load balancers. The load balancing that we have for the cores, so they can handle the same amount of calls. This is why you see two cores, because if one is a little too busy, then things are sent to the other. And also the load balancing of the devices, right? If one of the cores has too many devices, it'll send them to the other. And if the call comes in on one core and the devices are registered in a different core, then the invites will be re-forwarded to the core where the devices are registered.
Correct.
Yeah, and guys, the 229A for me is my Teams phone. So this actually rang my hardware inbound, and then it rang my Teams phone.
Correct. And you'll see after the invites, the 100s. These are just bookmarks, if you will, to let you know that they're trying to either send ringing or trying to connect. It's just a trying type indication. When you see a 180, this is ringback being sent to you. So now these devices are ringing as far as you're concerned. Then you're going to see that 200 okay, and the acknowledgement come back, and they're basically talking at that point. 487 is indicating, okay, I'll drop it with this individual, and let's just talk on this device. So that happens throughout and shows you the direction of the call, what device it's calling. It can indicate the actual codec it wants to negotiate. And you'll see that here. It's negotiating via PCMU. So, and different type of errors will indicate what's going on. For example, let me close this one. Let me actually open the other one. Hold on. Let's see, chat.
Nice car.
Okay, so that's inbound. Okay, so here's an outbound call. So this indicates the extension is calling out to the SBC. Obviously, it's indicated by the arrows, but same thing. So this is early media. This is saying that the SBC is ringing back to us. It's indicating it's ringing. 200 okay, 200 okay, acknowledge, acknowledge. They are now talking. So the conversation goes on and on. Again, you can see the codec that they're using, the order of the codecs they are using, the call to number, and the call from. So during this call, I believe it's approximately every 2 minutes, you'll see another invite go across on both sides. These are called re-invites. They're basically checking the temperature of the call. Hey, you guys still communicating well? If so, send me back an acknowledgement or a 200 okay. And that's what happens. They acknowledge again, conversation goes on, and the re-invites continue throughout that entire conversation, you'll notice.
Lenny
And
talks a
now,
long time.
Yeah, Lenny talks a
and
long time. Now, there is no problem in this call, nor was there in the other trace that I showed you. But the indication is just basically showing you of what the trace does. And you're always going to see, never think of this as an error. So this is an invite to the core. And the core says, hey, I see you want to make an outbound call. I challenge you first, send me your credentials. If you notice in here, there's no credentials. So that first invite doesn't work. The core challenges it, the device says okay, and it re-invites, but this time it's going to add credentials. So the core is going to say, okay, yeah, you're definitely a valid user. I'll send the invite out to the SBC and the call begins. Does that make sense to everyone?
Does, to me at least. Anybody have any questions on this? I know we're hitting our marker.
I see
Go ahead,
Steve has a
Alejandro. Yeah, shoot.
yeah.
Are you in the chat or you want to answer or ask live, Steve?
So he's asking where we would find the list of numbers, indicators, and their definition of users. So,
Well,
for
and
a
Steve,
list,
I'll answer that. Or are you talking
yeah, go.
about like Steve, are you talking about like what the SIP numbers mean and a definition? I mean, we don't really, like I said, we don't really want you to like be like, we want you to be informed on what we're doing, but we don't have like an official list of what all these things mean. In the presentation, we kind of have like 200s, 400s, things like that, but we still want you to let us read it. I mean, there are like SIP classes, like there's the SIP school, which everyone in our support team and even some of our sales team has gone through. Oh,
And also in there,
Alejandro just gave you some response codes off of Wikipedia, but we're not really
yeah,
publishing anything live because, I'll be honest with you too. Albert, our CEO, he's like really not a fan of us doing like a SIP training for partners, like teaching you to be SIP experts. We're just more like trying to keep you informed and, in the loop and maybe giving you some ammunition to just know what you're looking at. So hopefully that makes sense.
yeah, because in all honesty, guys, this it takes a little bit. If you're looking at this is a regular trace, let's say, but sometimes you will see that there are more than one individual involved in the call. Sometimes you have transfers, sometimes you have conferences, and all of those things, and then the signaling changes. You don't have 200s, you have 202s, and then you have 302s and all that stuff. And then in the meanwhile, you're investigating while all of those things might, like mean. We already know, and we can tell you what's going on, what happened, what failed at what point, and all of those stuff. Is it's good if you want to investigate it on your own. That's a good thing, but it takes a little bit of time. That is for sure, and we want to
Yeah, and
save you
there's
that.
some interpretation too, right, Alejandro? That could
Yeah,
be somebody could interpret something as one thing and something as another thing. So there's some, interpretation type scenarios that go down there too as well.
exactly. And remember that the code that we use has some, let's say, some fields and some properties that are very unique to us, RingLogix. And then there are some other things that are very unique to other partners and so on, and other companies, and they won't use the same type of call trace and whatnot. So instead of, trying to figure out what's going on, if you have a question like, hey, can you tell me what happened, at what point happened? Of course, we will show you. We will send you a screenshot of the trace itself, and then we will explain, like we will break it down point by point to you if you really wanna know, right? And if you need to
Digging.
send this to your partners, then we will do it in a more detailed way. If you tell us that, like, hey, I want this for my partners, and and they need to see it too, then we will understand. We will break it down very decently, and then you can just copy and paste it and send it over to whoever you want.
All right, and we got to wrap it up here, guys. Eric, I think you want to show one last thing.
I was just going to bring this up as a point. So as you guys can see, this is an inbound call from the SBC, and lo and behold, it's ringing into a call queue. Look at all these extensions up here. There's a problem with this one that I wanted to kind of show you guys. So if you look at this 302, this indicates that this user, John, actually set up forwarding right through his phone menu. Now, while the core is going to try to adhere to that and forward, as you see on this red line, it can cause issues. You should never forward within a call queue, nor do what this guy's doing. You see the 480 here? That indicates that this individual decided to put it in do not disturb. Both of these are voodoo to call queues. You never want to do anything from the device itself in a call queue. If this individual wants to forward to his cell phone, well, simply add his cell phone as a remote agent in that queue, and never use do not disturb in a queue. If a person hits do not disturb on their phone, it's not reacting with the core. It's not doing a do not disturb as the core understands it. So it is going to continuously try to get to it, and it's going to cause nothing but issues for you, if that makes sense to you guys.
Yeah, for sure. Well, good way to round it out. We only went over 6 minutes. Thank you for everybody that hung in. If you do have any last minute questions, we're willing to hang out a little bit longer if somebody has anything. I know we were posting the links to just the hosts and panelists, so I thank you, Madalis, for letting me know. I think I got everything on there and posted to everyone. So the addresses for SRV, if you manually provision, Alejandro's SIP response codes from the internet, Gabriella's Tech Tuesday. Yeah, I know we're sometimes in webinar, it doesn't go to everyone. It just goes to hosts and panelists, which is weird, but it is what it is. So, but thank you all for joining. Email me on the side if there's some other advanced topics that you want us to go over. We love doing these advanced classes. If there's anything that that I can include or do an advanced part 2 that you want to know, please let me know. why don't we increase the time before SIP logs and traces expire? So why can't that be longer? Is that systematic, or is that
Well,
a
even if
question
you
from Mark?
Yeah, so this has to do more with the back end. So even if you don't believe it, a SIP trace is a little bit heavy, and it's a little heavy because it's saved. It's tried to be saved in an HTML format, which is the most compact that you can imagine. However, within your domain, there are maybe hundreds, if not more, of those traces a day. And then if you look at the you as a client, and then the rest of the clients that we have, and you multiply that then daily, it's a huge amount of gigabytes that we have in the core and the server just hosting all those. We're trying to improve that for sure, and I am pretty sure that in the future we have talked with engineering to increase the time, and increase in time meaning increase in the storage. So very likely the
And it's
storage will be
server
increased.
space at the end of the day, right, Alejandro? Like, I mean,
Yep.
and I mean, server space isn't cheap. And we have, and Marco, I mean, we have hundreds of thousands of endpoints. So if you can imagine the calls that get made out of hundreds of thousands of endpoints, probably storing that data, it's like anything, you kind of have to set a time frame to it.
And one also thing to note is carriers are the same way, so they can't archive these traces and pull call records to see what happened with a specific call. They are purged after between 48 and 72 hours later. So it kind of
Exactly.
goes hand in hand. Even if we had a trace that lasted 5 days and we had a call ID we wanted to send to the carrier, we're already behind the 8 ball. They can't utilize it either because it's
Yeah.
already too old.
And
Yep.
Marco, I'm sure it's a standard, right? And I use this analogy a lot. I'm a woman. You give me a bigger purse, I'm going to put more shit in it, right? So if we extend it out 5 days, somebody's going to want 10. Somebody's going to want 20. I've got to assume, because I know the people that run our engineering team, that it's some sort of industry standard. And when those are removed, I don't think it's unique to us either. So, yeah, I mean, I think if we extend it, somebody's always going to want more at the end of the day than what
Yeah,
the standard is. But I think you have to just
correct.
set a limit at some point. So, but good question for sure. All right. Anybody else before we let you go? No? Cool, cool. Once again, I'm open to suggestions. So if you think of anything and you want to email me on the side, I'm Jamie, but it's spelled like Jaime, Jaime at ringlogix.com. Hit me up if you have any suggestions for what you'd like to see on future Tech Tuesdays. Thank you, Alejandro and Eric. I appreciate you guys.
Guys,
All right.
have a
Have a
good
great
day.
one.